It's JJ Humphrey. We are on Elephant in the Room. Today we got Bobby Cleveland, Julie Thompson, and Jason with us. Lemons, what did you think the other day about the director getting on television or getting on? What is that deal he does? What is it that he does? It's on the screen there.
It's the town hall meeting.
Well, it's supposed to be a monthly meeting about the issues within the Department of Correction, questions and concerns that officers and staff have about issues that are plaguing the department. But the meeting he had Thursday was pretty much a hate session about you, I think.
Yeah, I was wondering if I'm the major issue in the department. I think Bobby Cleveland in there got showing me a little. He threw Bob under the bus a little bit. OCP. He tried to kind of sneak OCP in there and take it back like, oh, I shouldn't have said it. Oh, I'm so sorry that I said something like
he's working OCP now. That's where he works.
Yeah, like he didn't mean to say it to start with. But here's what gets me. I mean, we're on here talking about we're on here talking about people being raped. We're on here talking about people being extorted. We're on here talking about the shortages, the kitchen issues, the electric issues, the door issues,
murders. We got more killings there than we've had. Inside the prison, inmate on inmate. Inmates count. They have lives. They're people. They can't just ignore this and they just keep killing these guys. He puts the bad guys in charge.
Well, it's just strange to me. Don't you agree, Julie? That it is strange that we got all of that going on in the prison, and what the director decides is the most important thing to talk about to all his employees is J.J. Humphrey's past employment record. Now, I want to ask you guys something, because I do a lot of background stuff, and when you call employers and say, hey, can I get you to tell me what kind of employee this was? Tell me about their employment record. Employers won't hardly give you that information anymore. I mean, they're really, really cautious because they can get sued. Now, doesn't it seem kind of interesting that a man would go all the way back to 1989 or 1990? Now, if you want to talk about whether I promoted, so director, listen up so I can get the facts straight. I want you to quit your lying, stop that lying, and let's get our facts straight. So let's go all the way back, since you went all the way back in my employment history, broadcasted my whole employment history to all of the state. Let's get it right. In fact, I interned at the prison. I started as an intern. I got hired on as a cadet, so I promoted to cadet. That's called a promotion, director. Then I promoted to CO1. That's what, if you'd ever been an officer, you would know that if you're a cadet, the next move is CO1. And had you ever been employed in the Department of Correction, you would know that if you get hired and moved to probation officer, that's also a promotion. If you get promoted to officer 2, that's what we like to call a promotion. And officer 3 is also a promotion. And then, director, we didn't have anywhere else. We didn't have a team supervisor. And my wife was employed as a school teacher. And I also have businesses where I run cattle and other stuff. And so it would have been a great significant decrease for me to apply for something else. So I never applied. And when I got out, I started my own businesses, owned a business doing drug courts and private probation. So I'd say that might be a promotion too. I don't know. What have you done other than know the governor and get a job through the governor? Now, you know what? I'd be careful about talking about old JJ because it probably get your ass sued. So what do y'all
JJ, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
I kind of listened to you there. Are you saying that the director lied about you? Is that what you're saying?
Bob, I'm saying that he went back to 89, which shows, I mean, you got some serious hate. I've been gone for 15 years. I've been gone 15 years. You're going to have to pull back to 1989 to go back to look at my record. And then, what is wrong with you? How about just stand up for your own self? How about stand up and talk about the facts? If you want to start being respected, how about addressing these facts and quit worrying about whether I promoted or didn't promote? But if you
talk
are
about respected, based on what I hear inside that Martin Luther King, including Martin Luther King, and at the prisons, he's not respected out there as a director at all. That's what I hear. But let me ask you a question. Under what you've done and what he's done, which one of you guys are qualified to be a director?
Oh, right now, I would say I can knock him hands down. I mean, again.
Well, wait a minute. You don't know the governor. He's the governor's boy.
I do know the governor a little bit, but he's in tighter with the governor than I am. I got to admit. But, Bob, it's not just that. You know, it's the fact that you're not, you know, why would he go out publicly and share my employment stuff? That's a big fat no-no. And again, why would you, a person that's over all the things that he says, and he's such a business guy, why would you allow yourself to do something like that? That tells me you eat up with something. And, you know, I just say the guys just eat up. He's mad because we're exposing. He's mad at you, Bob. He's mad at you. Julie.
Oh, he's trying to get rid of me. He's trying. He's doing a pretty good job of it. Oh. He's trying to get rid of me because he doesn't like the light that we shine on. He wants to work in the dark. He doesn't believe in being out in the open. He wants to work in the dark, and he doesn't like that I've exposed him, and some other people don't like it, and so they want to get rid of me. But you know, I think the officers and the people out in the prison, from letters I've been getting, the emails I've been getting, they like it. They like what's going on. And like what we were doing on OCP, but that's okay. We can do it here now. But JJ, let me ask you a question. What does he have the qualifications to be a director? If you're looking at the qualifications,
well, Bob, when they hired Allball, they went and dropped the qualifications.
Yeah, you voted for that.
Yeah, he does. But now, if you're looking at really, do you have any experience in corrections? The answer is no. Do you have any training in corrections? The answer is no. Do you have any education towards corrections? From what I understand, that answer is no. If you had one of the above, I'd say, okay, I think experience is the best thing you can have, period. When you go to college, they teach you a bunch
could he be, is he qualified, or would he not be qualified to even be an officer out there? Because he got to go be a cadet.
Well, here's the deal. You got to be a cadet before you can be an officer. So he would be qualified to go to work as a cadet, not as an officer. So
how about in the kitchen? Could he work in the kitchen?
I don't know, Julie. Could he work in the kitchen?
Depends on if he has any years of food service experience. Yeah. You have to have at least 1 or 2 to be able to be hired in food service.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of positions in the Department of Corrections that he would be qualified.
Well, here's one of his statements.
He needs remedial training in firearms. He needs to be requalified just in firearms. He needs to.
Do you think he even qualified to start with, Jason? I'd be surprised if he'd be qualified.
Well, I don't think he even followed the policy of that. But let me ask you a question. The things that are going on now in our prison is more dangerous than I've ever seen it. Now, Jason, you've been there for 20 years. Tell me what your thought is.
Oh yeah, like I said, I have officers calling me. Just this, there's stabbings, there's violence, every week, every day. And that's why JJ, he had to go to, you know, the officers and everybody. They know, everybody knows he's full of it. So he can't. They've lied, and we pinpointed him down on those lies. You know, now through the paper and everywhere else, they're figuring out that he's lying too. So his only recourse is to try to bash you now, because he can't. All the lies that he told her that we're exposing those. They won't even send the daily rosters. I've had officers telling me that now they're telling them to fill out all the empty spots in, just put names in there.
Yeah,
they're asking officers to lie.
Falsify a document. That's terms for termination.
Oh, that's a felony. That's terms for filing felony on him. But let me tell you what he's really mad. Let me tell you where he's mad. He was mad at me and Bob, and he was kind of giving us heck, talking a little trash on us all the time. what he's mad is you two. He don't know. So he's taking it out on me and Bob because he don't know what to say about you two and about the former warden we had on the other day, the victims we had on the other day. He can't attack those. He can't attack y'all guys because y'all's records look great.
You can go back to 02 and look at mine.
Yeah, the warden. So Luke Pettigrew come on and he can't hardly attack him because he's got nowhere. He fired him, but he can't attack him because he didn't have a reason to fire him. And he's got a lawsuit. It'd be great if he come on and attack him. But what he does is he attacks me and Bob because he's trying to make it, well, I'm political and Bob, and this is just an attack. So he's using that as a distraction. And I would encourage our listeners, don't get off on the distraction. Don't get off on him. Now, I like to have fun because he's going to come on there and try to rape me, but he can't even get it right. You know, Director, get it right. You know, get it right. If you're going to do something, get it right. You know, he said that I only had one bill in my committee. Well, guess what? I passed 2 or 3 bills myself in the committee. So what he does, he sits there and listens to me. So on the first day, we had one bill, and I made a crack on it, a joke on it. So he run with that, but he didn't go. He ain't smart enough to go back and look. Hey, we went 2 or 3 other weeks. Guess what, Director? Hate to break it again, but you lied again because we've had multiple bills in that committee. Go back and check us. So you're wrong again. And you said I've never gotten a bill passed. Director, go back and look, man. I've got bukus of bills passed. Director, you're wrong, and wrong again. Now, I must apologize because I sent him a letter the other day that said, you know, if you're going to lie about me or if you're going to talk about me, tell the truth. And I explained that I have promoted, and I also explained that we've had more bills. I also explained that I passed more bills. And I did explain, Jason, that you ain't even qualified to be an officer. And I did explain that, you know, best you could do. Because here's the deal. I was told he couldn't hit the broadside of the barn, but I argued. I said, well, he can hit the floor. I do know he can hit the floor, though. He can hit that. So anyways, I wrote him and said, you know, you're not even qualified. And I said, you know what? The people who earned the right, the people who earned the right to wear that uniform are laughing at you. And I believe that. I believe that is a true statement.
That's a fact.
Like a general.
I hear it all the time.
Somebody 20 years worked it. You know what? You've dedicated your life to that department. Or you went to the military, or you done something like that. To see a man like him get up and do that, people are laughing at him, and he don't even have the good sense to know that. And so again, he wants to talk about me. I'm an open book. I like to be talked about. He don't know that. I like him to talk about.
The thing about it is, he's the director. We need to worry about how we can get officers in these prisons. How we can get this place safer. How we can get more staff. How we can cut down on the violence. How we can get contraband. That's the things he needs to be focusing on. And everybody knows that's the things he needs to be focusing on. So all the dog and pony or whatever show he's trying to do, it's not working.
Jason,
half the comments, because those comments that come in that he listens to on that question thing, of course, they don't repeat half the stuff. But that meeting did not go very well for him.
Well, no, that's a phony. That's a phone. They could tell that it's scripted. It was a scripted meeting. Unlike us, we don't know what we're doing from day to day. We just get on here and start whamming it. But it's always something else comes up. There's always another murder. There's always another rape.
I just thought it was really, really poor taste and leadership for him to spend as much time as he did for that all call addressing, Bobby and JJ. I mean, if it's one thing, if he wants to address it and be like, you know what, there are some people who are saying comments out in the public. What I'm going to do as a leader is I'm going to put my head down and I'm going to keep moving forward, and we're going to deal with the issues that we need to deal with.
Exactly.
I would have way more respect for that than for.
That.
Well, I mean, especially when he went on there and, with JJ, what you just said about your work career. So that wasn't a true statement, but yet he told that to his entire audience that he had.
Well, here's the thing about it.
That's poor leadership, in my opinion.
Julie, look at it this way. He's making what? 200 and what, JJ? 270?
75,000.
How much?
275.
275,000. Okay, that's what he's making.
Also,
now, what did our last director make?
185.
Not even near that.
185. So he got 275 to come in to be the director.
Bob, if you'll pay attention to that video, because Julie just said it, they addressed that in the video as well. Bob, if he'd been trained like some of us have to listen to how people question, Director, there's a lot of little telltale signs you're doing that really indicate you're lying. If you want to come by, I'll tell you, I explain in all my training that you've never had, that there's certain ways you move and there's certain things you're doing that have real telltales that you're lying. But one of the other things is when you pitch your voice, you have a tone that kind of goes with it. I kind of picked up, and the tone is big on when your sidekick here is trying to throw you some softballs. She's throwing you these little easy pop-up questions, and you're trying to bat them off, and you're not doing a good job, Director. You're not.
JJ, I want to ask you a very serious
question. He's raising his head and swinging.
I'm going to ask you a very serious question. The other two directors was making less than $200,000.
185.
So what qualifications does he have to make $100,000 more dollars than anybody else? Is that a raise?
Well, here's the deal, Bob. He says that he was making 275 when he came over from OMES, and he just kept that pay. But here's the question, Director. I'll be sending it this Monday, so get ready. I'll send it to you in writing. Okay. So the question, and I also, Director, I'll send a copy of the law with you so you can look at what the law says. So here's the deal. Is the director pay Stephen Harpe? Is it about whatever Stephen Harpe makes and whatever Stephen Harpe was making? Is that what it says? Or is the director pay set by director pay? And what I mean by that, when Stephen Harpe is gone, will that director's pay be 185 or will it be 275? Because guess what? It's director's pay. It's not Stephen Harpe pay. It's director's pay. And that has to be increased through a proper way. And I'm going to send that law over there. And if I read it, so here's the deal. It's not about what you were making before, because it's not about you personally. It's the director. So the question is, if Stephen Harpe leaves tomorrow, then what's that director pay? What's that next director coming in going to make? Are they going to make 185, which is what it was set, or are they going to make 275? And if the answer is that it's 185, then guess what, Director? And if you have changed the director's pay, it can't be what I come over and so I keep what I want. It can't be what you want, what you was, it can't be Stephen Harpe. It is director's pay. That goes by that director. So anyway,
just who you know, what you get paid is who you know.
Well, here's the deal. Obviously, knowing people, and I don't have any problem with being politically connected or whatever. The question is, are you qualified for the job? The question is, are you better for the job? I don't think that Allball probably had the qualifications, but I will tell you this. I always respected Allball, and I thought Allball was good for the job, good for the position, because he put good people around him. He listened. He also had a great work ethic, and the guy just had a controlling presence. He had a presence.
People could relate to him too.
I was like, I would 100% agree.
Hang on, go ahead, Julie.
No, I 100% agree. He had that presence of when he walked on the yard, you knew he was there. But he also had the presence of that he was willing to listen to you. If things were broken, he wanted to know about it. And he showed up he showed up on weekends when nobody else was there, when the warden and the deputy weren't there. He wanted to see how things really were. He wanted to see it without the lipstick on the pig. And I have so much respect for that man.
Julie, you know what? We went to prisons together. Allball drove. We went together numerous times. And inmates would just surround him. But he would talk to every single one of them and listen to their questions. He didn't say, "Oh, I got to go, get out of here." He stayed there, and all that group, he would talk to each one of them. And that means a lot, but he did the same way with the employees. He's respectful for the employees. He wasn't wanting to fire everybody that didn't agree with him. But let me ask you something. This question here is got me interested. Fentanyl is pretty big in the prisons. Would y'all agree?
Yes.
And y'all agree that you don't just get off of fentanyl overnight? You got to. There's a way. The way to get off. I don't know how it is, but it takes time. It's not something you just get away. We have nothing in our prison system to get these guys off of fentanyl.
There are some
numbers
programs.
Of them. Sorry.
There are some drug programs
on fentanyl.
Well, but it's treated as a drug program though.
But it's still fentanyl, and it's treated differently than the regular drugs to get off of it. I happen to do a little bit of work. I'm not just completely stupid.
Hey, let me tell you, number one way to get off of it, keep it from coming into the prison by growth.
Exactly.
That'd be the number one.
Too many of it coming in.
That's number one start right there. But
here's the thing that got me, JJ.
And some other programs.
JJ, here's what got me. He reported in the paper that he hasn't got his mind wrapped around that yet, what to do about it. Now, why do you think that is? What do you think, Jason?
For one, he has no experience, and until you start addressing that there is an issue, they're just going to keep flooding the yard. You got to address there's a problem first before you can start handling the problem. I'd have a lot more respect for him if he said we're flooded with fentanyl, the violence is way up. Come on, guys, help me. Let's put a plan together and all work together to try to fix this. But until he wants to talk about JJ and other things.
I want to stop you right there, Jason, because I've made a little switch in the last week or two. I was going around saying our number one biggest issue in the prison is the shortage of staff. I've changed my mind. Number one issue is what you just said right there, is you got to admit you got a problem. If you go around telling everybody that we don't have a shortage, we're 1 to 15, everything's, it's, it's cotton candy and roller coaster rides over here, nothing to see over here, everything's good. There's probably the number one problem. The shortage of staff is huge. But him sitting up here telling all the legislators, J.J. Humphrey's a crackhead, Bobby Cleveland, he's crackhead with him, nothing to see here. I think that's the most dangerous thing going on right now, is him ignoring the problem.
What you agree?
I think the Daily Oklahoman kind of explained to that, all the deaths that's been there the last few years, especially the last year and maybe a quarter. The deaths and the thing that's going on. I think we had another death, if I'm not mistaken, Friday in one of the prisons. Is that correct, JJ?
Yeah, I've actually met with a couple. We don't know whether it's a murder yet or whether it's just a death. He was in a solitary confinement, is what I understand, and so we're waiting for the medical examiners before we jump off on things. The problem is the family don't trust DOC, and just tell you the truth, I don't
think you're going to find very many people that does. Under those conditions, they have, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like 300 cases that hasn't been decided yet for the last several years.
Yeah, that's insane of what we're seeing. Jason, what year did you start, Jason?
2002.
So 2002. So I had 12, 13 years before you. But, even in 2002, even when I left in 2010, you didn't hear about all. If you had deaths, you might have 1 or 2 a year. But, and especially if you had a stabbing, if you had an officer assaulted, everybody across the whole state heard that. Now it's just like no big deal,
Honestly, since Allenbaugh left, which Scott Crow, it wasn't like in this shape. It was getting bad under Scott.
Right.
But, and Allenbaugh knew the direction the prisons were going. He knew we needed a new prison. He knew staff shortages. He knew, and he was trying to discuss all that right before he left. Because I think, didn't he put an article in the paper too right as he was leaving? But, he doesn't want to address. I don't understand. That's the part I don't understand. It's prison and you are going to have some issues. But if you don't address those issues, then it's going to be to where we're at now and even worse.
What I loved about Allball, the reason he quit, they were trying to tell him how to run it, and telling them how to run it, and he was in a board meeting, and he
walked out.
He just told them stick it. You know what I'm saying?
You remember Director Patton?
Yes.
JJ, you remember Director Patton?
Bob, he was there when I done left. I mean, I know who he was.
Okay, Julie, you know Director Patton?
Yes, sir.
You know, Director Patton really looks pretty good compared to what we got. I think we'd bring Director Patton back. He looks good compared to what we got. I told him, the director, JJ, we told him we'd love to work with you and work together to make DOC a better place. But he didn't want to have anything to do with that.
I'll tell you where that experience comes into play. It's not that.
Yep, did we lose him?
No, you went away.
It was getting us bad under Crow, not to where we are, but with him and having the right team around him, he doesn't have the capability of it getting any better because he just doesn't. He does not know how to. He does not have a clue. When he said he couldn't wrap his head around the fentanyl, he does not have a clue how to fix these issues. He's telling the truth there. He doesn't have a clue. He's in way over his head.
Jason, do you think that is? I feel like he's surrounded by a group of people who don't necessarily understand corrections. Do you think that, Jason?
I think Jim Ferris does. I think maybe Jim Ferris has his own agenda. I don't think the other two really do. He doesn't have a good team around him, and I'm not trying to be malicious. But he needs some people that have been down. You've got to have people that have been in it, been around it. You know, like I said, Sparks might be a good guy. I have not one thing negative or anything to say about Sparks, but you have to have people around you that have been in these situations. Well, you can't bring anybody in and just plug spots, especially in corrections. He needs to have people that are on the front lines that can get out there and talk to those inmates. And, you know, you've got to have captains, you've got to have wardens, you've got to have deputies and chiefs, everybody. And he doesn't have the respect to start with. He doesn't. For one thing, he needs to lock these prisons. He needs to take a couple of the high security mediums. He needs to lock them down.
Well,
he needs until we can get staffed.
Here's the issue, a big issue, is if you do have people around you who do understand it, they can't be worried they're going to be fired tomorrow if they
disagree.
That's a true statement.
Truth and say, hey, director, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Hey, director, this is wrong. Hey, director, your numbers, they look all pretty and you got them shined really pretty. They're really wrong, and you don't have enough experience to know. Anybody that has any kind of experience ought to know, and it's real easy to go find out. Hop your butt in the vehicle and be there at shift change, and then you'll know that what you're saying is a stinking lie. Now, if he had any kind, and again, the difference between him and Albany's
life.
Yes.
Director, nobody cares about the rodeo, the McAllister rodeo, your officers, your staff, nobody cares about that at all. They care about fixing the issues in the prison. Nobody cares about you redoing that rodeo, any of that.
I'm so worried.
They care about they can't take any time off and how short the prisons and dangerous they are. That's what they care about.
I'm so worried about that rodeo. Like, who's going to staff it? Like, you already are shorthanded. Who's going to staff it? And then on top of it, we're going to have spectators and everything else. What kind of contraband are we going to see? That's what I'm worried about.
Well, that should not even be in the top 50 concerns.
Well, here's the deal. I'm all for the rodeo because the rodeo can bring, but you're right. You got to get everything's in its progression, okay? And when you're going to hell and people are dying and people are being extorted, the thing to take care of is the extortion. You know, when you're on the fire department and the house is on fire, you don't stop to buy donuts on the way. You know what I'm saying? Go to the house on fire, get the donuts on the way back, you know, or have somebody bring that. So here's the deal. The rodeo could be a great thing. It was a great thing. It could bring the public back to the prison, but that has to be kind of down here, you know, after you get everything kind of straightened out. Hell yeah, let's work on the rodeo. But the thing about it is you have to kind of put it in succession as to what you're trying to do. And again, I think that if we got the right crew in here, I honestly believe we could recruit and stop a shortage. But again, I'm not going to publicly go out and say that, because if I did say how, they would steal the ideal and they would bastardize it. They would.
That was one thing I was going to ask you, Representative. They continue to say, well, we just get on here and complain. We're not getting on here and complaining to the standpoint that we're just making things up. We're telling facts. Now, facts is different than complaining. And if you can't take what to know the difference between a complaint and a fax is, you're in the wrong business. We're talking about how short a staff is, how we're putting people's life in danger. And you know what's really sad is when that inmate talked to his mother and said, Mom, I just had been raped and I want to take a shower and get all this stuff off of me. That is sad. So sad that can happen. Where are the officers around there at? They're supposed to go by every 30 minutes. They're supposed to have a camera out there. These people are hollering. They're screaming. And what do? They call 911 because they cannot get an officer because they're so short-handed.
You don't have anybody to watch those cameras.
Well,
back out up there a minute. We're going to put these cameras on everybody. That's going to be the whole savior, okay? That's what he wants to talk about because he always wants to switch the subject matter to something he's doing, not what's reality. Who is going to watch all of those cameras?
Well, and here
we don't know, right?
Well, let me just say this. I got accused the other day of never having solutions.
Right.
Which just tickles me. I mean, before they ever had lawsuits on the social media deal, I filed the lawsuit and our AGs and our people wouldn't take it. I mean, 7 years beforehand. When we're talking about criminal justice stuff, I have given them. But let me just quickly say, there is a system in how we could do a computer system to pay out salaries where you wouldn't have all these messed up, ignorant checks going crazy, people not getting their money. So we could fix that to where it's easily done. That system would also, when we pay $1,400 instead of $1,700, it would code back to $300. So that we wouldn't have to worry about how many. They couldn't manipulate these pins, is what I'm saying. We can get a system, easily do that. But that system would also, it would stop a lot of your extortion. It would stop a lot of your money games. We can do that quick. That's no problem. Now, I'm not going to tell them how because they bastardize and they go get their friend to do it and make money. Bob, there's a computer system that we can put in to help figure out everybody across the whole system, connect everything so that we can get real numbers on the system because we're flying blind. Boom, there. We've got a phone system. We can knock out a lot of the phone use. We got that we could do. Hiring people. I can tell you in 1 second, I can come up with a plan.
So can I. That's what I was going to say. You read my mind, JJ. The hiring one thing. I'm not going to tell you what, but you're doing it half-ass wrong. They can't even hire people right. That's
right. They're doing it more than half-ass wrong. They need to take it back to the facilities for starters.
Exactly.
Well,
everybody needs to, and all these officers need to shadow at the facility for 2 weeks at least before they ever go to the academy. Ever.
But Jason, here's the thing. He didn't want to have nothing to do with me. I have ideals. I've been around. He told me I don't want to have nothing to do with you. We're not going to recognize OCP. He's trying to break us. He's trying to get rid of OCP. Why? Because Bob, we got a flashlight and we got and putting it on him. Bob, that's exactly why he's trying to get rid of us. If he's going to get rid of us, these officers aren't going to have a chance, man. They don't have nowhere to go.
They're their only voice.
And that's the deal. It's not about you getting rid of you. It's about getting rid of all his employees because the employee voice comes through you. He's not just dissing you. He's dissing every employee out there because you are their representative. So when he tries to throw you under the bus, he might as well be throwing all them. He has disrespected every employee out there, in my opinion.
That was like one of his leaders in his leadership called our members convicts. Sorry. Low lives.
Thugs.
Yep, thugs. Called them thugs.
They're his employees.
That's it, right? There's his employee, and you know what? They work for him. These same employees. That's what they think. That's what that little group thinks about our employees. Well, this is one of the leaders.
Well, here's one of the biggest things they've got is they have lost all their experience. I keep going back to that. It is huge, bigger than I think people realize. It continues. They keep losing and losing people of experience. They're down to most of their staff have less than 5 years. It is scary. It's scary. Mm-hmm. I've got a plan that would bring back, not only hire a lot of people, but would bring back that experience overnight and put those people back to work that wouldn't have to go through an academy so that we don't lose that. And these people already know what it's like to work in there. So you don't have to worry about all that.
And JJ, most of the staff in the facilities, they're scared. They're scared too. I mean, you got one officer maybe to watch 240, 300 guys. He's scared half to death. He's just trying to make it through his shift. I mean, you know, they're scared. That's why you see an uptick in everything too. Most of
we're one officer to every 15 inmates. I don't know.
Here's my question: when are we going to start holding the governor accountable?
That's a good question. I mean, that's a very good question.
No, seriously. I mean, if all this stuff can be proven, all you've got to do is subpoena these records of the shift rosters, of the overtime reports, and of the H's, which apparently you're not being able to get. And it's out there, and everybody in the world, to include the newspapers and everybody's know he's lying about. Well, when's the governor going to be held accountable? I mean, he's the one that put him in there. I think at this point he needs to take some of the blame. You know,
it's funny that's one of the questions I get a lot from the officers. Well, we need to go to the governor. Well, the governor's aware of it, but you read the paper last week, which they did a good job of researching. I didn't see one thing in there that they lied about, but he sits there and he'll call JJ and us liars all day long when we're only talking about the things that they're doing. And we're talking about, we're advocating, I advocate to make it a safe environment for the people that work there as well as the inmates. That's what I advocate for. He doesn't like that. He doesn't need anybody else. He won't ask me any suggestions or anything else because he knows everything there is to know.
I can tell you that I was at a meeting the other day, and one of his top people, who I get along with fine, really, really good, and they were having a hard time having a poker face. You could tell just being around me was agitating them, and I guarantee you the reason that is because of what we've done. And I probably shouldn't say this, so if you want to know, do I hold anybody accountable? I think anybody knows me that there's no limit. I have no limit. I'll piss off just about anybody, you know. And so basically about last May, somewhere around last May, I was given a pretty firm ultimatum: work with them or kick Bobby Cleveland to the curb. And about 2 weeks later, I wrote him a letter that said, I know this is your good friend, but I'm fixing to start spanking his ass. And I think I wrote spanking his ass. And so I have come out for the last year. So have I told them what's going on? Have they heard it? Hey, there's been nobody more publicly out there. We've done it in public. We've spanked him. Again, this is not a hate thing towards Stephen Harpe. The reason I come after Stephen pretty hard is because he come after people. And he's mean and nasty, and the way you fight him is be mean and nasty. I haven't been. I don't think that I get on there and talk about his, stuff as much. I mean, he obviously talk about my personal record, which Stephen, I'm very proud of. Keep talking about it. I like it. But here's the deal: we've called him out when he wouldn't investigate rapes. But Mr. Harpe, Director Harpe, tell the truth. Did I not give you that rape deal months and months beforehand?
Right.
And did I not give it to the AG and did not try to make it a public? Did I give you the whistleblower? Didn't try to make it a public. The shower incident, did I call you 3 to 4 weeks before and ask you to handle it, and you write me back, nothing, there's nothing. And then you write me back, oh, well, we may investigate it. You do a 100-page investigation, find nothing when I know for a fact that your own employees wrote you and told you it was going on. It's in incident reports. I've got them. And I wrote you that. I didn't publicly do that. I've called y'all on extortion and you've ignored it. I've done all that behind the scenes. Even though you were pretty nasty, I've still tried to operate like that. And yes, now I've come out publicly because you won't do anything and because people are dying, people are being extorted. And again, that's the issue for me. That I think, in answer to Jason's question, I think the governor is being held responsible every time we come out publicly with a new rate.
I'm a bondsman.
Well, you know, one thing though, JJ, I will say this about you, and I can say a lot of things about you, a lot of good things about you. But when I bring things to you, you say, Bob, we got to confirm it. Can we confirm this? Let's check it out. And you just can't take and run with it. You want to confirm it. So anytime that we have something, we confirm it. But let's take the showers, for example. I know on the showers, you sent him a letter at least a week before, 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
3
before.
weeks.
And then they denied it was going on. And we knew it was factual. We knew it was going on. But we didn't know that one guy was left in there for 9 days. Another reporter found that out. But they left these people in there, took away their civil rights to put them in a 2-by-2 cell, shower. And they had nothing. They didn't say, well, we're trying to move him. We only left him in there 3 days. Like, oh, golly, golly. You know, that was wrong. I mean, you can call me, you know, one of the guys that works for him called us, said, oh, we're representing the inmates now. Inmates are human beings. You treat them like human beings. You don't treat them like animals unless they act like animals. And some of them do, but 90% of them do not. Would you agree to that, Jason? And that's not what's happening.
Yeah, there are a few you got to get down. And I mean, and see, you got to know that. The director doesn't know that either. But yeah, there's a few. That's what I'm saying. I could clean up 90% of these problems in 2 weeks' time.
You know what?
If the governor violent inmates,
if the governor would meet with us right here, us four, and talk about what's going on in the prison, and pay attention what we're doing, and we could give them lots of suggestions what they're doing wrong, because they're not doing much right.
How about if governor put the boot to Harpe and called old Pettigrew and said, "Hey, I want you to run." How about that? That's what I'd suggest.
Oh. Pettigrew
that would be actually awesome, and get rid of that little group that they're around there to get some experienced people out there.
Well, I wouldn't just go in and start firing people. I'd give people opportunity. I'd come in and say progressive discipline, what I'd do for everybody, but I'd also come in and say about 90% of these directors. I mean, this Martin Luther King it ain't at Martin Luther King. They bought him a new building, by the way. Done shot the floor over there. But the thing about it is I would come in and tell people that we're going to look at this, and people like Bear and people, I name him, just I shouldn't call out names. I'm sorry. But there are people around there that I think could be eliminated. But even those people, I would come out and say, you know what, you've had your day. And if you want to retire and go enjoy yourself. But if you want to stay, here's the job. Your job no longer exists, and we're gonna put you where we need you. And we would get rid of. We had about 200 back in the day, and now we got 700, 800. We go back to 200, and it would run massively much better. And we'd put them other 6 or so out to the prisons, and again, the OIG would be more in the prisons. That's my answer to things. Go ahead, Jake.
95% of the issues need to be handled with the warden at the prison level. They've taken everything out and created jobs and made, Oklahoma City so much bigger. But 95% of those problems should be handled at the prison level. And the wardens are all going to even have to be reprogrammed how to be wardens again. The whole DOC process is going to have to be completely revamped. But they've taken all the power away from the wardens. And, they've taken all those groups out, IG, K9, everything. They've taken them all out of the units. You can't even have your pre-investigations and all that are done outside. Everything's done outside the facility now.
Yeah, talking about that
That's a lot of. It's created so much headache. 95% of the things should be handled by the warden.
Talking about PREA, I don't know if this is factual. I'm just put that out front, but I did get a couple of emails that they've been going back and changing the PREA in some instances, and
well, Bob, and if you get caught doing that, that is a real big issue. But anytime they're changing state documents, like we were talking a while ago, and I don't think people understand this. So I want to say this to any of the employees listening. If they come in there and they ask you to change a document, don't do it. If they ask you to sign on that's something you didn't do, don't do it. There's a charge. It's called false declaration of state document. It's a felony. You would lose your job. You would be charged. You would get probation or maybe go to jail. Don't do that. That's bad. And if they're asking you to do that, it's because they're covering up for themselves. And again, it's time to expose them. So don't get played in. If you're asked to do that, go back and write a report saying I was asked to falsify documents and turn it in.
They have the CID, which is contraband interdiction team. They got IG. Anyways, all those groups that are outside the prison, they're not. Man, they wait. I wonder how many people are at just the city, not even in the facilities. How many staff do we have there now?
Well, I look back. What was that? Probably 4 years ago, Bob. And it was like 66 or 70, and I've been told it's over 100 now. Now, I don't know that for sure, but when I looked last time, 3 or 4 years ago, it was at 66 or 70.
Are you talking, Jason, are you talking about total staff we have there at Martin Luther King?
I'm talking about like IG, CID, STG. I'm talking about all the groups that could be in the prison, but they're special groups that they go handle an issue here and there and go to different prisons instead of just having a few for each prison that are there all the time to handle the issue.
I believe
because PREA, how it works is so basically when an inmate comes in and he says he's been raped or whatever, the first thing you do is you separate the inmate, you put him isolating by himself. And your deputy warden is the one assigned at each prison. He takes a PREA statement and he sends that to the city to see if they're going to do an investigation. Then IG comes in and everybody and they do their investigation, but instead of just having people that can do the investigation there. But I bet you it's 100 because I think just IG and CID and STG, I think they have close to 100 people just in those three that they could use. And think about that if they just took those 100 and put them in the facilities to help out and stuff.
Okay, now I don't know if this is accurate, but I've heard it from numbers of people when the guys were raped by other inmates. They told the officer they didn't get moved. They didn't get anything to move to a private cell or anything. They just continued raping them.
Well, anytime that they do that inmate, if you have a stabbing, if you have an assault, if you have a rape, they're supposed to be segregated and either one or so either that victim has to be moved to a different facility or the perpetrator has to be moved to a different facility before that inmate can be placed back out on that yard. That's what's supposed to be happening. The problem is they're locked the victim and not the perpetrator. Perpetrator finds another victim. So next thing you know, they're all victimized, and that's what they're doing it back afterwards. They should be, as we have discussed on here a couple of times, finding a method in which to lock the problem people up and reward them by getting out. So if they want to act right, you can go back to general population. But until you act right, you will be locked down. And again, you give them restrictions on canteen, restrictions on everything until they want to learn how to act, and that's how you control that population.
At Connors, they have its A unit, which is a regular housing unit. They have that, and I had cleaned it out when I was there. They have that whole one at A side, the whole side's on lockdown again, like an SHU. Well, I know they're not doing the folders like they're supposed to. When you lock somebody in that segregated housing, there's specific things they got to have. They got to have recreation. They got to have medical, be seen by medical. They have to have law library there. They have to have chaplain. Those have to be signed up. They have to have 3 showers a week. I asked somebody, I said, they're not doing the logs. No, they're not doing anything. They're not doing following any kind of DOC procedures that they should be following.
Jason, I know there's a lot of problems there at that prison where you were at. I'd like to know how many officers go into the cells to look for contraband there.
They're not now because by policy at those meetings you should have 2. They don't have 2 officers. So to do any kind of search, I would keep the shift over and we would do like you remember, JJ, the old school shakedowns you would do.
Sure.
And I would have, bring 20 or 30 officers in and unit staff. I'd ask the case managers and other staff. I had people from medical and everything helping me shake down. Just, I said, we're going to do this for 2 hours. Whoever wants to over and help can, And, but they don't have that. That's what I'm saying. They don't have the staff to do anything. All they're doing, and I just a couple of weeks ago where wardens were telling me, all we're doing is warehousing them and trying to get them fed through their medical appointments. That's all they're trying to do each day.
Jason, we used to, probation pro cert team, other prison cert teams, we would meet at location somewhere off site from the prison. Nobody know we're coming. We would meet right there, say a store a mile away or something, and then we would all just come in. They would give us a plan of action that, hey, y'all will go to the back, y'all will go to the front. You're going to go with, and they'd assign you to a person from the facility. You know what I'm saying? You go with Jason. Jason will take y'all where you need to go, and he'll get you lined up. You go with Julie, and Julie's going to take you to the kitchen, and she's going to get you lined up. They would have people there to meet us. We would go into there. We would get all the dope. You can't say all, but I'm going to tell you something. You would clean that yard, and they knew that could happen. And so it really kept things, in much, much better shape. But as you said, hey, can you afford to have 30 or 40 people show up at a prison, have a day like that, because it takes the staff from that prison. So they're
not doing that. They're not doing the shakedowns. Like I said, they don't have the staff, and the officer is not going to go in there where there's all kinds of weapons in that cell by himself, because he should cuff most of them first. Those inmates need to be cuffed and searched, and then you search.
How can they just come out and say where we got one officer for every 15 inmates? How can they say that?
That's what I'm saying. It's so easy to disprove, and it's actually a slap, and the officers know it's a slap in their face too. That's why they're all pissed off at the director, because they know he's lying. But like I said, at some point, the governor's got to be held accountable.
But do you think that he knows he's lying? I honestly believe he gets these numbers and that he doesn't know enough about them that he may actually believe those.
Well, then he's very stupid, because all he would have to do is look at his overtime report to see he's not at 15-1.
Overtime is out of control. We pay more in overtime than we do in regular time. I say we pay just about more in overtime pay than we do in just regular pay.
You can pull up that overtime report and show we're not at 15. That's easy to find too. So if people really cared, why are they not pulling that? I mean, that's easy to find. Do we even know how many officers we have? Can you even get an accurate count on that?
I've never been able to get anything straight on them. There's a way I could probably do it. I've got an idea how to do it. But here's the bottom line. We just sent over, I had a person help me, assist me in trying to get what to request from them. I sent over a request so that they can either send it to me or deny me. If they deny me, then I'll put in a request to subpoena those records. If that doesn't work, then I'm going to raise 10 kinds of hell. But I also got another plan. Always got a backup plan if that don't work either. So we're going to just keep on, and we're just going to keep it until we can 1,000% that if they didn't know, they should have known. They have a responsibility. And the reason we're going to keep doing that, if we don't, I'm going to tell you something. You're seeing escalation. I've said escalation for 3 years now. I've talked about how it just keeps escalating, and what the levels of that are. And we're at the final level. We're at the final level. You're going to see what you're going to see. You're going to continue to see assaults on staff. Those will keep escalating. You will see more and more, and we're seeing that right now. We're seeing more and more staff being assaulted. When you see that become more and more, guess what? The next step is a full-out problem. And again, I've been working around 35 years. I was told back before I started that there were people that were scared to come to work back when they had those riots and things. I have not seen that in my history of working for and around corrections until now. I've seen it isolated places maybe, but I've not seen it wide scale until now. And right now I'm getting calls and people are telling me they are scared to go to work. And that's the first time I've seen that on that scale since I've been around it.
Hey, so, Julie, in the food handling, when you serve lunch, now I don't know this, so I'm asking you guys this. When the inmates come into that area, do they get shakedown at all? Can a guy come in there with a big old shank and stab another guy?
Absolutely, it could happen. It depends.
What's the policy there?
It just did. They just had a bad stabbing in the kitchen at Connors just last week, and the staff got in the middle of them, and he was stabbing the other inmate around, which she shouldn't have been in. And that's like a training too, but she was trying to stop it, and they were stabbing around.
Not an officer, just somebody working in the kitchen.
She was trying to protect an inmate.
And kudos to her, but they train you not to, there's a proper way to do that. And again, back.
But you know what?
Yeah, you clear everybody out that's not involved. Lock in just who the issue is, and then contain it when you can get enough people there to, jump in. You try to spray or whatever, but you don't want to get in the middle of that.
But Bobby, you know what? When you see that, you just get automatically you're going to try to get in there and do something. I mean, it's just an instinct.
Well, that's where the training comes in, Bob, because you could have two trying to stab each other, just trying to get to you to draw you in. They do that stuff too. That's what I'm saying. You got to be trained for these situations, and you just can't plug people into these spots like they're doing, because they do that all the time too. They'll fake like they're having some kind of incident. They'll fake it just to get you involved in it.
What'd you say, Julie?
Bobby, to answer your question though, is it in policy that they have to be patted down before they go to the kitchen? No, they are not. But ideally it would happen. But that can only happen if you have enough staff members. I mean, inmates would not be bold enough to try to do that if there was enough officers around, if there was enough staff members around. They would not be bold enough to do it.
Yes.
Hey, we're going to have to wrap it up. So, Julie, you got anything you want to wrap up on?
No, sir. I think you covered it.
How about Jason? Jason, you got anything?
I just want to say at some point, I think the governor's just as responsible as the director now. That's my takeaway. He needs to start getting some heat because these things are obvious and they're easy to prove.
Bob, you got
I agree with Jason there. If they can prove this, if they want to. I get so disgusted about prisons that people don't care. Up at the Capitol, they don't really care. They don't take a real interest in checking it out. That's it.
And last thing I want to say, Director, I hope you're listening, because while we did address some of your lies and some of the stuff that we spent a majority of the time not talking about you. We spent a majority of our time talking about actual shortages. We talked about real solutions. We talked about how to fix computer systems. We talked about how to fix money, stop extortion. We talked about ways to hire and fix the shortage of staff. We're talking about real problems that plague your prison. I think we even discussed that we feel like the rodeo could be a good deal, but in respective of get the problems fixed first. So all of these things, we talked about the political sides of issues. And so, Director, I'd encourage you to quit looking at everybody else, start looking at yourself and start looking at real issues. Take one issue at a time. First biggest issue I want to talk to you about dealing with is quit pretending like there's not a problem. Actually, you can't solve a problem. Jason said that a while ago until you admit there's a problem, identify the problem. And so, first of all, stop trying to pretend there's not a problem. Let's fix the shortage. That's the number one problem. So,
thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Yeah, we'll call it quits there. Guys, appreciate every one of y'all. We'll be back on next week. Y'all have a blessed day.